Okay, let's get back to the list that everybody agrees I'm wrong about. And remember, these are movies that disappointed me. Not that I thought they were necessarily going to be great, but they didn't measure up to even the expectation I had, which made it low. All right, number 40. Keeping that in mind. See, it's funny. I have the first three Saw movies, and I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them not because of the violence. I know everybody's like, "Oh, the traps, the traps." I enjoyed them because they told an interesting story. There was a morality to it, to the way it went. Um, it was a clever way of taking a horrifying movie and making it more interesting. The third movie really tied up the loose ends from the first two in a nice way, and it was nice to see that there were sometimes scenes that you think are present, but they're actually in the past, and you know, but at the end of the third, we have a better picture of how everything's working. Part four is just the movie that takes all that, throws it out the window. I remember watching the start of part four and going, well, wait a minute, what about the end of part three? What happened there? And then it's sort of forgotten about. There are times where studios get obsessed with, okay, we need to make a movie to make money on Halloween, and this is what this was. The first Saw was a surprising hit, so they went with two, three, four, five, six, and they progressively got worse after the third one. The third one I enjoyed. The third one's probably my favorite. The fourth one is mostly terrible. Number 39. Um, Avengers Age of Ultron was so good that Captain America Civil War is considered to be the second Avengers movie. Because Age of Ultron is really just it's just Tony Stark's invention going crazy, which appears to be, I guess, how that works. And it's more of, and I've said since I watched it, it's 5 minutes of Ultron. This villain is built up throughout the movie, and then the villain kind of gets his way for 5 minutes, and you walk out of the movie going, "Wow, that was a lot of talk about nothing." And it doesn't have the iconic moments that the first Avengers movie had. There's not a whole lot that goes on that I say, wow, I'm really glad I watched this because it gave me something. They give you more background on Hawkeye, which is nice. I think background on your heroes is a good idea, and certainly made it look like Hawkeye was a little more useful than not at all. Because almost any, and in this movie they kind of make fun of that Hawkeye feels like he's useless to the group. But in this movie they show that he has some use, and yet at the same time, while he has use, he doesn't play a huge role at the end. I'm not a fan. I'm not. Give me Iron Man 3. Give me any of the Captain America movies. Avengers Age of Ultron. It's just, to me, it's skippable. There's too many characters in it too, and it's just, I like Captain America Civil War. Just make that the second Avengers movie. Number 38. Um, the Halloween movies were not originally supposed to be just about Michael Myers. The Halloween movies, once part two was done and Michael Myers was dead, go watch part two. Michael Myers is dead at the end of it. They brought him back for part four because part three was just such a it's kind of a mess. It's it's interesting. You'll watch it the first time and go, well, that's different, and the jingle is unforgettable. The one thing that I will give Halloween 3 is that jingle. The jingle is amazing, but the idea of the movie, the stupidity of parts of it, most of it, and it's just. And then at the end of the movie, they have this cliffhanger, which is also kind of just there because it's a horror movie, so you gotta have a cliffhanger. And that's why they went back to Michael Myers, because the story they came up with for part three. I think Halloween 3 would have been better off having that storyline of kids being turned into bugs. Yeah, yeah, huh? I think that storyline might have worked better as part of an anthology like the Creepshow movies, but ultimately it was made and it was fleshed out into this 90 minutes of whatever it was, and it's not that great. Number 37. This one will throw people off a little bit. Um, so Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston did this movie, The Breakup, and it was billed as a comedy. It was billed as a comedy, and I don't like it when a trailer sets up a movie to be something it's not. The Breakup is pretty much a drama. There's comedic parts to it, and it's depressing. I remember I watched this with my ex, and this was when we were in the last couple of years we were together, and things weren't all that great. That was a bad movie to watch. Not Before Midnight bad. Before Midnight is the ultimate don't watch this with your significant other movie. But The Breakup is just it's a downer. The whole movie, and I applaud them for not going with a Hollywood ending, and yet it just kind of the movie just sort of ends. And you're like, oh well, okay, but the way that it was marketed as kind of a comedy. Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston, who aren't exactly known for their dramatic chops. Vince Vaughn can be. Jennifer Aniston, I don't know. I guess she can try, but The Breakup was just sort of. Eh. It didn't do anything for me really. It was it was one of the more disappointing movies that after I was done watching it, the movie was over. I'm like, wow, I kind of wish I'd watched almost anything else. And I had high hopes going in. 'Cause I'm like Vince Vaughn, Jennifer Aniston, this should at least be funny. It may be stupid, but it should at least be funny, and it just wasn't. This one is actually a bunch of movies, but I don't feel like trying to rate all of them. So I don't know how many we're up to now. I want to say five, but I know they did like the Ghost Dimension and the Other Dimension and Paranormal Activity, the Tron Dimension. I don't know. There are so many stupid sequels to this movie. The original Paranormal Activity is a lot of nothing happens, but it's still kind of creepy, and the way it's shot is kind of fun. The ending's a little sensationalistic and over the top, but it's meant to be that way. The original ending is worth watching. If you've never seen the original ending of Paranormal Activity, a friend of mine had burned a copy. So I watched Paranormal Activity, Paranormal Activity, and the version I watched had the original ending. There's no cliffhanger ending to the original. He doesn't get thrown at the camera in the original. There's no demon face at the end of the original. It is a very subdued, leaving things open to interpretation ending, but it's an ending. Katie doesn't walk away at the end of the first Paranormal Activity in the original ending. So when I heard they were making a sequel, I'm like, wait, what? And then I heard she was in it. I'm like, she can't be in it. So then I went back and I watched it again with the ending they tacked on for the theater, and I was like, that's a way more stupid ending. And what it led to was really, really stupid sequels. Paranormal Activity 2 was a mess. It was a lot of nothing until the last 5 minutes, and the last 5 minutes are bewildering. Paranormal Activity 3 is worse, and don't ask me why I kept watching them. I keep waiting for them to get better. Horror movies are like that. I'm like, you know what? I'll give it another shot. Okay, this series has let me down, but I'll give it another shot. And maybe it's because Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, movies like that, they've had a good movie in the middle somewhere, and I go, wow, I'm glad I kept watching this. And a good example with Friday the 13th is Part 5 is pretty much awful, and Jason's not in it. And then Part 6 says Jason lives, and it's like, wow, this is a really good movie. Paranormal Activity doesn't do that. It doesn't go back into being good movies. Part 4 is laughable the whole way through. And Part 3 is bad too. And there's when they start doing the camera back and forth and they start getting really lazy. As soon as the cameras are moving back and forth, I'm like, okay, there'll be something scary when the camera pans back. Yep. And that thing will be gone when they pan back again. Yep. And it gets so predictable. So these movies, it's too bad they didn't just stop at the first one. But because the first one cost about $30 to make, and they made $11 billion on it, that means that we get Paranormal Activity movies till we stop watching them, which I think they did with the last one. I think the last one finally, the box office was just trash, and they stopped making them. But as Saw has proven, they'll bring it back because they can't come up with new ideas. This is Hollywood. Not allowed to have new ideas. I'm not writing out the entire title to this one. Number 35. It's too bad, you know. The first Pirates of the Caribbean was great. The second Pirates of the Caribbean was also fantastic with Davy Jones. Davy Jones was so well done. One of the best CGI characters I've seen in a movie, and it was a really good movie. Then the third one at World's End comes out, and it's really god awful. It is a stunning masterpiece of awfulness, and I think what loses me is that by the time they get to the third part, you can tell that some of the actors, looking at Keira Knightley, may have been bored with their characters being as they were portrayed. So suddenly she's the leader of the pirates, and it's not explained really a whole lot other than because the script writer felt like it, and it's horrendous to get through. I barely got through it. I There were parts of the movie where I'm like, man, I just want to turn this off. This is just bad. And it's again, it's a shame because the first one was really good. The second one I saw in the theater and I loved it. I was just enthralled with it most of the way through. And then the third one is so unwatchable that I don't go back and watch the first and second one anymore because it's like whatever. This turns just awful in the third part, so I can't do it anymore. Um, and pirates movies can be a lot of fun, but it's the reason why I never watched the new one when it came out. So in the new ones, and I think are they up to five? I don't know. Anyways, there's a lot of them, and past the second part, I just don't bother. And nobody's come to me and said, "Man, you really need to see this fourth one because actually it's really good." Anybody that I talk to and say, "Well, I stopped at the third one, that one was crap," they go, "Yeah, you're probably right." I haven't had anybody tell me why I need to see the rest of them at all. Number 34 is going to surprise people, but I need to explain why this one let me down. And again, um, it's not it's not a matter of I expect Citizen Kane. Ironic since I've never watched Citizen Kane, but um, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, where this one loses me is it's too many robots. What made the original Transformers cartoons fun was the Autobots and the Decepticons, and they were all different colors. You could tell them apart very easily while you're watching the cartoon. Then Ultra Magnus gets in and just screws everything up later, but that's a whole other thing. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen is about a fallen leader, and he's in space, and there's other Autobots and Decepticons who just show up because they feel like it. And there's a couple of fun scenes. There are two glaring errors with Revenge of the Fallen. One, we find out that Decepticons can become a human. You have a Decepticon that can transform into an actual human. Why are they still robots and spaceships and stuff? The whole idea of why they turn into cars is because they want to be camouflage, which doesn't work when you transform 40 million times in the city in front of everybody. If you want to be camouflage, you're doing a really lousy job of it. But they can apparently transform into a human, and they never use that again. It never comes up again. And of course, there's the abomination, which is the Constructicons and Devastator. That's an abomination. There are so many things that are done wrong that I the third part I only watched out of the corner of my eye. I remember my ex rented it, watched it with my kids, and I didn't watch it. I was like, I'm not watching that because I know it's going to be crap. And again, it's the idea of taking as many explosions and as many fun looking CGI items as possible and throwing them all on the screen with the idea that this will entertain the masses. And it can, but it has to have cohesion, it has to make sense, and you have to understand who's fighting who. My biggest problem at the end of Revenge of the Fallen is I don't know who's fighting who. I remember there's a fight going on. I'm trying to remember who Optimus Prime's fighting, and he killed the robot he's fighting. I'm like, wow, they just killed off Megatron. And then 30 seconds later, I see another robot fighting. I'm like, that's Megatron because they're all silver, and their faces are extremely similar. And in the original cartoons, they weren't, and they all had their own personalities. And in the movies, they really kind of don't. The whiny coward Starscream was awesome in the cartoons, and I remember watching the cartoons as a kid, and I loved watching Starscream fight with Megatron. I loved when Galvatron took over. that he didn't take any of that crap from Starscream and killed him right away. And it was great because Galvatron was the reincarnation of Megatron, even though Megatron wasn't technically dead at that point. But they were fun characters and they were different. And in the movies, they're just not. They lose what made those of us who remember Transformers from a kid, what made us like the cartoons. Yes, it was trying to sell toys. Yes, it was shameless marketing, but the main characters had personalities and we liked them. None of us liked Rodimus Prime. That's why Optimus Prime comes back so quick, because we were not happy with Rodimus. Hot Rod was not a guy that we looked at and said, "Yeah, he's a leader," and we can remember that. So when Revenge of the Fallen came out and it's just a mess, it was really upsetting to me because I always thought the Transformers movies, if done properly, could be awesome, but they made them all about the humans that nobody cared about at all. Nobody watched the Transformers movies and said, "Wow, that was great. Did you notice all the human characters there yesterday? Phew, that was great." No, you went to school and you said, "Did you see what Optimus Prime did in that episode yesterday?" That was kind of fun. That was kind of cool. And I don't see what, even for little kids, these movies have, because again, if I can't understand who's fighting who, and I've followed Transformers since the 80s, I don't know how other people can understand who's fighting who either. It's all explosions and more explosions and lens flares and explosions. And good luck figuring out who's fighting who. And it's endless. As the fight looks like it's winding down, all of a sudden the Fallen sends in more Decepticons, and I said out loud in the movie theater, we don't need more robots. We don't need more robots right now. And it has to be pretty bad for me to say something out loud in a theater, but I did, because I didn't want more robots. Number 33. Now, when I did my top 200 movies, for people who are fans of action movies, they'll be like, "Where's Predator?" It's not my top 200. Predator is a fun, schlocky movie. Um, it's an interesting concept. These Vietnam vets fighting with an alien from space that's there just to hunt them. Predator 2 doesn't have that. Predator 2 also has the most baffling and bewildering ending. I remember watching Predator 2 and thinking, well, I'll give it a shot because I like Danny Glover. Danny Glover was fine in Lethal Weapon, and you know what? I'll give this a shot. It can't be that bad. I'd seen the reviews and gone, well, it can't be that bad because I liked the first one. I didn't love the first one, but I thought, well, you take out Schwarzenegger, you put in Danny Glover, maybe I'll like the second one more because Danny Glover's kind of fun. No, no, this movie wasn't cohesive. It didn't make any sense. Um, and whatever fun the first one had in it, the second one's just kind of what. There were a lot of points during this movie where I was just shaking my head and saying, "What? What happened? Wait, what?" And the ending, that was one of those jaw dropping moments, bad jaw dropping moments. There are good jaw dropping moments, like Luke, I am your father, and there are bad jaw dropping moments, which is the entire last 10 minutes of Predator 2. It is, because you get this feeling of satisfaction, which is immediately followed by, "Are you serious? No, 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 no. Why? Why is this happening? Why am I here? Why life? Why is life? Why is life?" That's what Predator 2 left me thinking at the end of it. Number 32. I talk about horror movies going downhill, and for me, Scream 3 was the ultimate downhill. So Scream 1 is a fun movie. It was in my top 200. Scream 2 was not in my top 200. It wasn't bad. I saw it in the theater. I enjoyed Scream 2. I thought they telegraphed a little bit too much who the actual killers were. I thought there was a little bit of, "This isn't the killer. We promise. Don't guess this person's the killer." I'm winking badly on purpose. Scream 3 is just a mess. Scream 3 is an absolute, complete, and awful, tedious mess. And it's a shame because Scream 1 came in as Wes Craven's way of saying, "I'm going to take all of the horror movie cliches, throw them right on the screen, acknowledge to the viewers that they exist, and try to turn them on their ear." By the time Scream 3 comes around, the movie is just all of those cliches. It's lost its cleverness. The charming characters are no longer charming. Everybody's aggravating. I'm by that point, I'm starting to understand why everybody wants to kill Sid. And honestly, if you can make four movies about how much people want to kill you, you might want to think your life and what the choices you made to bring you there. Um, and Scream 4 is not on this list because I didn't expect anything more than crap from Scream 4. I have it because I have the first three as well, and there's just something about owning an anthology. But while Scream 3 was bad, Scream 4 was mildly better than Scream 3, which says a lot about Scream 3. I think Emma Roberts' performance in Scream 4 makes it better than Scream 3. And it shows why I don't like how Emma Roberts gets always typecast as the ditzy blonde or just vacuous. She can play evil pretty well. Um, and she looks better with brown hair, too, let's be honest. Scream 3 is a mess, though. I mean, Jenny McCarthy's in it, right? So, right there, you could just pretty much if Jenny McCarthy's in a movie, you can guarantee, all right, so quality's out the window, and that's just the way it works. Uh, it's just reality. Number 31. I hadn't expected a fantastic movie when I watched AI, but I had expected a movie where I cared about this robot boy, this this robot that gets adopted by a family and eventually gets abandoned, and I had expected to care. I will put it this way: the Simpsons, when they did the Treehouse of Horror, where they had artificial intelligence, was better than artificial intelligence. AI is dark. It has a lot of good ideas at its heart. I think AI could have worked as part of the Blade Runner universe, actually. AI though, just it doesn't. Haley Joel Osment was coming off of Sixth Sense, and this was a career decision that I don't think helped him a whole lot. Um, and then he grew up and he just looked strange. But a decent enough actor though, and he's making a career out of it. But AI was mostly awful, and I had expected something that I'd expected a movie that when I watched it, I'd give it maybe a 6 or 6.5 or 7 out of 10. And AI, I would give it maybe a 4. I did not enjoy AI at all. I didn't particularly enjoy Jude Law's character. I thought there were so many ways they could have taken it a little different. I think part of it is this when I talk about right here, okay, so I talk about how Scream has the cliches and the predictability. I think with AI they were trying to be unpredictable and different, and oh, we're going to take it in a different area than you think we're going to take it, and it's to a point that it's not fun to watch for me personally. And I remember the movie was kind of a disappointment at the theaters, but I don't take box office into consideration in terms of what I'm going to watch. If I did, I wouldn't have watched Titan AE, a movie which I enjoy greatly. Um, and AI is just, it's a disappointment because I'd expected something better. And yeah, so there you go. That's up to 31. You guys can let me know what you think in the comment section below. Again, this is not about the worst movies ever. That would be a completely different list. This is about movies that I had hoped would be better than what they were. The most disappointing. Worst movies ever would be a completely different list. I can absolutely do worst movies ever, but that would be tricky because then it becomes if it's so bad I enjoyed it, does it make it a better worst movie than the like is it or do we just go by like a top 50 of movies that were so bad I had no joy watching them whatsoever? Because then we're into 50 movies I probably didn't finish, that I probably started and went, yeah, icky, and I turned it off. So I didn't do that with AI. There were parts where I just wanted to stop it, but I thought I'm far enough. I might as well just watch the rest. And it's a shame when a movie does that to you. But again, let me know what you guys think. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.